Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I am here to talk to you about a little item that you might find useful on your Windows laptop for teaching by distance to your students. It's called Microsoft Whiteboard. You might know that we do have a digital whiteboard available, and good news, if you're in the Department of Education, it's a freebie. Yes, that's right. It's free to download as an app onto your Windows PC to use for teaching students, and it has interactivity that students can actually link with you on the whiteboard. So where do you go to get it? I'll just show you. It's over here on the Microsoft Store. So you should have that up on your screen now. Microsoft Store, if you are over here and you search for whiteboard, then click, 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 up it comes, and it's down over here, Microsoft Whiteboard. Mine's already installed, but if you click there, the button that says install, and click, you will go over to there. As long as you're signed in with your Department of Education credentials, it's a free download and it installs automatically. No administrator access required. You have to bother Chris on his day off. Okay, so once you've got the whiteboard there, the way I use it to teach, and you could use to teach as well, is usually to interact with a lesson you're already doing. So if you're already running a lesson and delivering some material, there might be some images. In my case, I use Microsoft PowerPoint an awful lot to teach physics. So I might have a PowerPoint running. And as an example, I thought I'd show you about the way I would interact with that material, but then send my students to all go and open their own Microsoft whiteboards that are installed on their machines. And hopefully by then they've already linked into my whiteboard. So they're signed on. They can actually draw on the screen if they have touch capability on their screen. So generally this is for Windows laptops, Windows 10 and above with touchscreen ability. All right. So to show you, here is the PowerPoint which I would have been running this morning, and over to there. So I'd be showing my students this problem which we were going to solve together about a runaway shopping trolley, and I'm showing them all sorts of vectors and bits and pieces. And what I'm mainly going to do, though, I'll get that off the screen, is I'm going to actually pose to them that they solve this problem and that we use the whiteboard to do it together. So I have the problem. It's all there visually laid out for me already. And with a bit of preparation, I can actually prepare myself a nice little laid out whiteboard that's ready for the students to work. I will warn you, the whiteboard tool, it needs a bit of your preparation beforehand. You need to line up objects that you want on the whiteboard to start with. It's very clumsy to be doing that while you're in front of students and they're sitting, watching, waiting, whether they're on the board or maybe you're using the whiteboard as part of a live cloud meeting. Your Microsoft Teams or Zoom will be able to share the screen of you using whiteboard. So you want to have the things, general principle, be well prepared and have things already pasted onto your whiteboard. And if you've got things you've got to put on the whiteboard, also, another tip I've learned is that the next thing you want to paste on, so the next step, you usually have that copied onto your clipboard so that you can just go to the whiteboard and say, and now I want to show you, and then Control V, it will paste using that Windows shortcut. It'll paste your clipboard item straight to the whiteboard. Okay, so I've given them a problem. I've been cruel. Shopping trolley's running away, and I've actually said, here are the final answers that you're meant to find, how fast it's going at the bottom and the distance it covers, but no working. So they've got to work it out themselves. So it's kind of an inductive problem. They've got to work their way through inductively to work out, well, what maths do I need to do it, etc., etc. And I'll obviously give them some help. Okay, so I would now say, as I say to you, let's switch over to whiteboard. So I'm doing that right now. Sorry about that little delay. Okay, so here we are, sharing the screen with you of Microsoft Whiteboard. So here it is. This is a blank whiteboard which I have just filled in earlier. That's actually zoomed in quite close. The whiteboard will actually hold quite a bit of text. I'm using two fingers. You can't see this, but I'm using two fingers to pinch down now. And I can change the zoom level, and you can actually move parts of the whiteboard around. I might want to put that entire section. So what you do is you just put two fingers on to move things left and right, two fingers together. If you want to zoom in, you put the fingers down and pinch the fingers apart, like on your iPhone. And then if you want to zoom out again, fingers apart and then pinch them towards each other. And the zoom will come up on the screen like you see. All right, so here it is. You can see what I've done already, right? I've put a little heading and I've actually pasted my image from PowerPoint over here already. Nice thing about them is that as you paste them, all of them are rescalable, so you can change that. It's a little bit too small. I can make it a bit larger. I can then just touch it and drag it down a little bit. Oh, sorry, got to make sure it's selected, then drag it down. Sometimes it works a bit easier with the mouse. There we go. And I've put my problem up here, so the little physics mathematical vector problem they've got to solve for forces. I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm using 2 fingers to drag up the screen and move it. And I've shown them here with my little arrows. There's what they've got to find out. So as we get working with the students, I'd be discussing this diagram, and what I can do now is go to the pen tool. So I select pen down the bottom, whichever pen I want. I like to use red, and I can actually start to annotate on top of the diagram I've got. So I might want to block this whole thing out. In physics, we'd treat that as like a single body. And we know that I've got a friction force going backwards. The arrow is representing a force in a symbolic way. And then I've got a larger force going down the ramp. My arrows aren't real straight, but there they are. And so I'd be describing to these guys the different forces they've known. So I might label some things on there. We've described to them this part, so I'll speak about that and highlight things that I want them to see, and then I might want to label my diagram. This is the weight force parallel down the slope. Now, did you see that? A little bit of a mistake. Oops, doesn't matter. I can tap my eraser tool and just erase that out. Erase that. Oh, I don't think I can raise on top of a picture. Never mind. But there it is. I've got my my tool going like that. This force back here was friction. I always give these things labels. So you might do that in a different way. If you have a text on screen for English or HISI, for example, you might want to actually be highlighting on top of your things, relevant things. I want them to know the friction force here. So you might be highlighting different things and little arrows to annotate out. Known friction, which is helpful in this problem. Okay, so things like that. I talked to you before about the use of having some things pre-copied on your clipboard. Now, as I start to describe to the guys, I'm going to get them working through steps of problems. I might help them with the first one, which is actually to find this force here. I also want them to know the mathematics, and so what I might do is just call them out down to here and ask you guys, so what's the equation for this force? You've learnt this already. I might change pens, get one of the guys to tell me, and they'll say, oh, we know, sir, it's M times G times sine of the angle, which is 30 degrees here. And I say, that's great, well done, boys. And now if I'm ready to bring in the item that I had copied on my clipboard, I just click out of the pen tools and click here and then Control V. Ah, look, and here comes my element in from the clipboard. So I say to them, that's right, guys, well done. So let's do that part together. So see, by preparing a little bit in advance, I've got that, that item at the ready, and it's a bit easier than handwriting with your finger. The touch tool is actually really useful. However, it's kind of clumsy. I believe you can use a stylus and get a bit better sensitivity with the touch screens, but these Hewlett-Packard ones I'm using, it's not very sensitive. So I prefer for text things, I can pre-type it and just copy them from a Word document that I've got open somewhere else. So now I've got it complete. They know the equation, and so I now point them out over to here. I might go back to a pen tool in red this time for my mathematics and say, okay, guys, over here, WX, remember we labeled it up here. That's actually force parallel weight force that we labeled up here. And I just do those little helpful annotations so they can tie what's going on here to the picture we've been using. And we do their mathematics, we come out with a value. Okay, here's the force, and then I would lead them on through another couple of steps. And if I want to, as I keep going, you won't be able to see me do this, but I can unshare that for a moment, and I can actually go back to my Word document, which I've got over here. And with my little Word document I've got open, I'm just scrolling to get that document open. There we go. So that's the document. I've got this already just open on my machine, and you see I've got lots of other stuff up here as well in text. So what I might do is use just a little snipping tool. I use another thing called Greenshot, which is really useful. And I might just copy all of this stuff here. As they've been working and writing things down, I'll copy it to clipboard. Now, once I've got it in the background, and I won't tell them I've done that. They can't see me get over to that Word document and copy things. They can't see that. So then I go back over here and share back to the whiteboard. All the steps I'm doing, by the way, I'm just doing this for a recorded video right now, but you can do all these steps I'm doing while you're in a live meeting in Teams or in Zoom, right? You just got to choose which things you share at which time. With Teams, there's just a little share and unshare icon on the presenter tool. So that's what you do. So I've got that stuff. I want to give myself some more room, so I might just zoom. Oops, I've got to get out of there. Right, got to take the pen tool off to do zooming. I'll zoom in a little bit and just with two fingers move the whole thing up a little bit to leave me some room. And then right here in the middle, Control V. There it is. There's my lovely mathematics steps for the guys. And actually what I've prepared for them there is a bit of a solution pathway, because this is an inductive problem. I don't want them to just see me do it in front of them. I want them to actually work on it themselves. So I've got that all in place, and now I can blow it up so they can see it better. And so there it is. They can actually start to work on these, and they would then be able, if I move that whiteboard over, they can actually get their own pens. If I've added students already, then they can start to write things over here. So I might have one of my mates my mates in my class here has already worked out the force is 294 newtons. And so he might work out that, Newton's third law is, second law, sorry, applies here. I want to get the acceleration. I've got to find the acceleration so I can find the velocity. So acceleration is equal to force divided by mass. And I know the force, it's up here, 294. And he goes back and goes, what was the mass of that thing again? So he can just flick his way back. How heavy was the trolley? It's a 60 kilogram trolley. So he gets his pen tool back. 294 divided by 60 and comes up with these values, etc., etc., etc. So the kids can actually work there around you on the whiteboard. Only one other thing to show you, which is actually quite cool. Two other things. Up here, if I want to use this whiteboard with someone else, just before the session, what you would do is press invite someone at the top of the whiteboard. And let's say I want to invite my excellent teaching friend, Mr. Estefan. All I do is start typing their DET address in. There he is, Kendi Estefan, and I hit click to select him, and then importantly down here, invite. So I'll invite him in. He'll get an email link saying you've been invited onto a whiteboard, and then when he opens Whiteboard, he's got to have the app open. But when he opens his app, he'll get this link, and he can just say accept, click, and then his name will show up down here, but it'll be in red, and then he can start writing, and as he writes, his initials KE will show up next to what he's writing. So it's not a bad way to keep track of what your students are doing. All right, the only other thing I had to show you was what you can do at the end. So let's say we've done all of this hard work. I keep drawing on this thing. I'm just silly. All right, so I've unclicked the pen tool. I can just get that down. I'll have a big look at my whiteboard. Let's say I've finished for the day. That looks good. I like that. I want to actually keep a copy of that whiteboard. So there's a few things I can do. Over here, I can go to this menu tool, and I can choose export. So when I'm in export, I can actually make myself an image, PNG image, or a high quality SVG. That one has to open inside a browser, but it's a lot more high resolution. So I'm just going to do an image PNG, and it's going to save it wherever I want. Yeah, wherever. Let's just call it desktop tester, and boom, I've gone over there. And just to show you one I prepared earlier, if you're going to have a look at those images, they actually come out pretty well. And so here we go. So yeah, this is one I prepared a little bit earlier, and say that's just a direct export from Microsoft Whiteboard. And there it's in quite good detail. I've dropped text on there, but one of the students drew this little ramp diagram as well with some forces. And once you've got that, that's just an image. You can save it, and you can, of course, post it on Google Classroom or Teams or wherever you like. And don't forget, of course, you would give them an invite link to share and see it. If you have Microsoft Teams, there's another really, really cool thing it can do, which is this. It can actually also, back to Whiteboard, it will also share within Microsoft Teams. Oh, look, KE is in red. Mr. Estefan is here. Hello, Mr. Estefan. So you go again to settings, export. Oh, sorry, no, wrong one. Not setting. It's settings, and then just down here, post to Teams. So I'll click that on then, post to Teams, and I would look at my Teams. Because I use Teams a lot for my classes, my Teams are already signed in here because I'm signed in Microsoft 365, and so is this Whiteboard. So I'll have a look. Which one will I choose? I would probably go and put this. I'll go and put this in the my staff one. So I'll choose Science Faculty. Obviously, I would choose my physics class in general. I'll choose the General tab of Science and Science Faculty, and there I go Post. And then on the Microsoft Teams drive for my science staff, look, they're going to get a little picture posting up on their General Teams channel, so they can have a look. All right, well, that's about all there is to it. It's a very, very useful program, and I recommend you use it, especially if you like to interact and annotate. Maths and physics teachers, engineering teachers, it's a real win, really good. And the only last thing I'll leave you with is you need to make sure, though, that you have the minimum requirements. And I believe I've got those right here somewhere. Yes, the minimum requirements for a Windows machine. As I said before, it's Windows 10, and an integrated touch is recommended. If you don't have a touch screen, you can actually get apps on your phone with a stylus that connect, so you can turn your computer into a touch screen. But much easier is a touch HP ProBook, or some of us have Microsoft Surface Pros with the touch, and they work. And I believe this works in an iPad as well. All right, that's all I have for you. Thanks for listening. Hope this is helpful. Give Microsoft Whiteboard a go.